Entertainment talk radio at its best with Kaye Dee and Motormouth on 103.1 WEOM FM, Thomasville, North Carolina.
And not only
But they have
that,
been captivated with that thought. that
okay,
this
I'm
is
not
out there.
debating that, but the problem that I have with all of it is, okay, the fact that it's not listed, the fact that it doesn't have to be labeled based on
Well, that's
our.
what they're lobbying. They're lobbying
Yeah.
so they don't have to list. Just like with
Right.
those genetically engineered foods,
True.
produce foods,
True.
where they're lobbying and trying to fight against. Say, for instance,
They don't
I
want it
have a
labeled.
store. I sell produce, and
Yeah.
I have the Flavor Saver tomato, the one that's genetically engineered to
yeah.
age, as opposed to naturally. It ages when it gets on the shelf, because they know how far it is from where it grows to
And how long
it's
it
gonna
takes to
take,
get
and blah,
there,
blah, blah, blah,
how
blah.
long they can put it in storage in the back of the warehouse at the facility before they bring it out. You're right.
So
I'm
if
with
I
you on
put a
all that.
sign up and say Flavor Saver tomato,
Yeah.
I get attacked.
It's all about money. I mean, we
Because
know that.
I mean, they use, the lawyers created the legal and stuff, right? And they were slave owners. So, okay.
Hi, Ron.
But I mean,
I'm feeling you on that. I'm feeling you
you
on
know,
that.
I mean, because and the reason I guess I use the word captivity.
I'm just
is
saying
the
captivity is
idea-
such a strong word, but I
is,
get what you're saying.
Like Revelation, chapter
Keeps the
22.
money going.
Yeah,
where they
it
tell
does.
you that in Revelation 22, where they say it made both rich, poor, free, and slave into bondage, into captivity. So that word comes from out of the Bible, the way I bring it down and look at it, because I believe. And so, therefore, how did they do that? It was through words, because in the beginning,
Yeah,
as they said,
that's right.
was word.
You have to start. Jail has to start somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah.
Because
I'm with
if
you on
somebody just threw jail in front of you,
that.
you wouldn't go with it. You would not flow toward jail.
True.
Okay?
True.
They got to make jail look good, taste good.
I got you.
No nutrients. Just the superficiality of it is what
Wow.
draws people.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
That's where the captivity.
So I
comes
guess
in.
that's why we need to try to, if we're gonna start to be aware and try to be more in tune with nature and our spiritual aspect,
Try is like almost.
and not want to be captive.
Try is another word that don't exist. Try is.
Oh goodness. Okay.
Well, think
We're gonna
about
do
this.
linguistics this morning.
Think about
Okay.
this.
Uh-huh.
All of the major corporations that deal with food, all right? They would not have become as super rich or wealthy if they did not have willing subjects
True.
to buy their wares.
True.
So in order to
because
do that-
especially based on how we used to do things and how it progressed, and you're right.
And
You're right.
illnesses are
Yeah.
increasing,
You're right. Not decreasing.
okay? But
And
people-
unusual illnesses
Yeah.
and new illnesses are coming up. You're right. You're right.
So people are supporting this based on their choices, and their choices are being steered and manipulated through the word. That's why you think they spend so much money for and the Super Bowl is the epitome of it.
Oh yeah.
They spend so much money to get a message across.
Oh yeah.
And now the
You can capture a whole bunch of viewers in a few minutes.
captive
Capture.
audience.
Here we go again.
No, speaking on that, Motor Mouth will
Okay,
come back
Ron,
in here.
okay, Ron.
That's how I got my name, Motor Mouth. But let's deal with this here, because we're talking. You brought up, we're talking about something. The word illness. Okay, now let's go to the Andes, the Himalayas, and everything, where the people grow. I mean, age to be 175, 200, 250 years old that we don't hear about
Right,
every day in the
right.
news.
Right.
Where the illnesses that we have today in commercialized civilization, they don't even have. There's no cancer. There's no this. There's no
But
this.
you know why
That
they
grow-
don't eat like we eat.
Right.
They don't.
Exactly.
Their environment is
they
not
on
like
the
our
land.
environment.
They still live off
Yeah,
the land.
off nature.
Naturally.
They're in touch with nature.
tune.
They don't subject themselves to the pollutants that are in the air,
That's true.
in the microwave. I mean, you see all of these microwave towers.
Yeah,
You have a lot of different pollution going on.
that's true.
You know,
That's true.
So that they're not subjected to that as much.
Yeah.
That's true.
Now, and some of them don't even have what we call a writing, a language.
Right.
Everything is audible.
Right.
You know, so
I
therefore
believe
they
it.
don't have that captivity of the word. Everything have been passed down from the ancestors.
Well, that's cool because I mean,
Right.
you remind me of
You know.
this little, I don't want to say debate, but it was a debate that I had when I took a linguistics course. I still remember this man is probably thinking, oh, I hate the day that lady walked through my classroom. I mean, but it's like we were studying about how did he classify it? We were studying cultures and groups of people, indigenous and, way beyond BC. And we got into this thing because what started? He was trying to tell me, and it was his class, it was his prerogative, he was doing this thing. But he was trying to tell me they were not considered, in lack of a better word, humane, or that they were not really significant.
Yeah, but
Based on the fact that they didn't have a verbal language and based on the fact they didn't have a written language. But I'm thinking these people, what was interesting to me, these people, I cannot remember the name of the folks we were studying, but they had their own mathematical system. They had their own way of doing food. They had their own, it was a culture to me. So it was crazy to me that you can take a certain concept, even on a college campus, and say this group of people, even though they lived together, they worked together, they multiplied, they did everything else that another mainstream traditional culture would do, but yet you don't want to call them significant just because they lack having a verbal language.
what color were they?
Well, they had some melanin in their skin. I'm just saying.
But you know,
I mean,
but,
I don't know whether that's why he ruffled me so
Okay,
about
but
it, but it
again-
just seemed wrong to me. How can you just not even?
Well, see,
You can't
the
just say these
ego-
people are not
Right.
significant at all just because they didn't have a language that was like how
Yeah,
we
you can if you
classify.
compare it to yours.
But you get what I'm trying to say.
Right, but
That was,
that's what
I'm
I
sure.
was
I'm
saying.
sure he hated the
Compared
day I
to
walked
theirs-
in, but he just really set
but
me off
baby,
about that.
But when it comes down to that, you have to look at where they get their knowledge from.
Exactly.
They were definitely
know,
knowledgeable,
'cause
and that's
I
why, to
mean-
me, their contribution should not just be thrown to the side. They were significant.
Because I already say, a good example of that would be the Toltec system. Okay?
The Toltec system.
Yeah, the Toltec system, where you have
Now, what is the Toltec
the
system?
Toltec system.
I'm
is
glad
the
you
land-
asked.
The Toltec system is what was here in this land before they came across the water. Okay, it's what you find out, like the Hopis and going on back to the Hopewell, the Kennewick man, the Olmecs, and all
I
of
read about
them.
the Kennewick man. I
Okay.
found that pretty
Washita.
fascinating too.
The
Yeah.
Washita and all of them of dealing with the Great Spirit, if we want to.
There are
bring
a
it
lot
down
of
like that, to
people,
know
a lot
that
of.
they had that knowledge. They
Yeah.
knew the universe. They
There were a
knew
lot
the
of
solar
cultures that
system.
came
Right.
across and did things. That's why it just really upset
don't
me
honor none of
that
theirs.
they don't not forget honor.
No.
Not forget honor. That's why I got a little rougher. They didn't even want to admit that they. What's the word?
Well,
How can I
that's
put it?
what. Think about it now. They got Pampers commercials now. And I know it's old now. Maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They got Pampers commercials with Caucasian-looking babies breakdancing.
Yeah, I
Okay,
remember that.
that's a habit.
I remember that commercial.
That's a habit.
I
You
remember that
take
commercial.
what's before you that you did not create, and then you obliterate that which created that
Yeah.
thing that you just took, and
Yeah.
then you put yourself in that position to make it look like you are the generator.
The
I guess that's what. Thank you. That's what ruffled me in this little class. So
Green, traffic
it's
light.
like you're right. It's like I'm gonna take what somebody else has done, translate it differently based on my terms, and go back and classify whether it was worthy to even mention or to be taught or to even acknowledge that it even existed.
That's the ego going wild.
And that's what just
Yeah, but
irritated
a good
me.
example of
But
that
yet
is
these
George
people had their
Washington
own
Carver,
their own math. They had their own math. They had their own. How can you not say this was not a culture?
I mean, they make
It's
you
crazy
think that.
to me.
They got you feeling.
Oh,
that
they
way
didn't
every
make me
time
think a thing.
You open a jar of peanut butter.
It's called behavior modification. You
What-
know, they
what-
make you dislike one aspect of your thinking, okay? And once you extract that from your mind, then you make room that they can fill with what they believe is more valid.
Fast food.
I guess that's what it was. I felt like they were trying to take the validity away from too many people that did their own thing just because it didn't look the way that you think it should have looked based on your
look
terms.
at it this way here. I mean, I'm going to say fast food.
Well, the only thing it.
But look at
Go ahead, I'm
the
sorry.
idea that you were strong enough to acknowledge. But look at how many people there that don't never acknowledge.
90-10, 90-10.
And so therefore, if that's bring us down to what's the subject of what we're talking about today. Ill foods. How can it be on the shelf and everybody looking at it and saying this is healthy for me instead of going back to the natural things of what we're talking about? How do you correct yourself? And it's an unlearning process.
Yeah, it is an unlearning process.
Well, you know, when convenience overrules your very health, you make a choice because it's convenient.
Yeah, that's true.
And you can't. If you have a radio, television, a computer, or access to any of that through someone else, you will hear or read. But a lot of people don't do that anymore.
A lot of people don't read anymore.
Go ahead.
I mean, if you,
it's crazy, but they don't.
You hear this causes cancer, or this may cause cancer, or this may do that.
Yeah.
Okay? And you go to reach for that thing.
Yeah.
You know what it does.
That's true.
But it's convenient and it's cheap.
And you know what else I think a problem is? Because, I try to be healthy. And I'll admit I'm not that healthy. I try. I slide
you
back.
You almost healthy?
I'm almost healthy. Depends on what day of the week it is. I'm going to keep it real. But you're right. Just like sodas. A lot of food that I eat, but I don't get into the fast food. I do try to buy organic when I can. I do try to get farm raised. I do try to get, the closest thing to nature that I can. I try not to buy processed stuff. But I think what it is certain things. It's not just the fact that it's convenient. It's that it tastes good.
Habit.
And it's a habit. You're right. Like soda. That was my weakness for a minute. Soda tastes good. But I know what's in it. I'm not an idiot. I know how much sugar is in it. I know the coloring is in it. I mean, I know everything. I know the lab thing, there's controversy about it causing cancer. I mean, I know that, but
that's
it's
suicide.
just hard. I'm not agreeing. I'm just trying to say.
That's suicide. If you know something's going to harm you and you go ahead and do it anyway.
It's not necessarily that you're not aware all the time. It's not necessarily that.
Going back to the idea of convenience.
That you don't know. Well, you're right. It's not just the convenience. Sometimes it just, you got a craving for the taste. It tastes good.
Yeah, but
maybe I have a sugar issue, Ron. Okay. Can you help a sister out?
But
maybe it's the sugar in it, you think?
Going back to what we were saying about how people are programmed today, and going back to what you were saying, Kaye Dee, about people not reading, that's not the system today. Today the system is visual.
It is.
If you see visual, because I mean, look at the way the commercials are. Like you saying earlier, you can listen to a pharmaceutical commercial, and they tell you they spend 60 seconds. They spend you 50 seconds of what it's going to harm it's going to do to you. What it can do and everything. Yeah. And then in the last 10 seconds, they telling you go and ask your doctor for it.
You talking about the disclaimer?
What you want.
And then they got a scenario of a person.
Having
throwing a bow. They got the pleasant music going on.
Jumping through a field of flowers, floating through the wind.
It's visual now. Right. We have become visual creatures over reading.
Right.
Now, you guys think about that can't happen, when they brought out the idea of the television in 1952. Before then, people was more reading. All the knowledge and everything was passed on, other than the radio.
Yeah, and radio, when it first originated, was really more about entertainment, like theater shows and skit shows. It wasn't. They had information too, but that was like before. That was kind of like how people use television now. The family would get together, sit around just to listen to a radio show.
War of the Worlds let everybody know how easily led people are.
Exactly.
That's true.
How programmable everything is.
Orson Welles, you're right.
Somebody just telling the story. But then too, you can see how people didn't have a mind. Mm-hmm. It was, to think and realize this man is telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
that they actually took it to be reality.
And I think what it was
You know,
with the Orson
and
Welles thing too,
how
it
much
wasn't just
fear.
at that time that people didn't have a mind because they weren't so programmed, for lack of a better word, as they are
I guess
now.
what I'm trying to
But
say,
the
Ryan,
radio was still in its infancy. It was still this strange thing. You know what I mean? You got this thing here and it's sitting here and oh my gosh, we're being entertained. There's sound coming out of it. It wasn't like it was something that they were very, very familiar with.
But I guess
at
what
that
I'm
time,
trying
too.
to say about their
So,
mind,
I'm just saying, when they transitioned over to World of Wars, it was more like an experiment because I studied this in great depth. It wasn't like they just said, we're going to do a
But
play.
see?
They just presented it as if it was happening in the here and the now, so people believed it.
Okay, but
You know
what
what
I
I
guess
mean?
what
They
I'm
just
trying to say,
did.
but like you said, study. You know, there could be many different studies that they did on that. I mean, because
It
there
probably was.
This, you know, when I heard, you know, got into it, it was about how people still have fear.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
upon the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's
'Cause
how you
fear is-
control people.
Yeah, because fear is the number one thing of self-destruction.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah, you know, fear of living, fear of dying, fear of knowing.
Fear, and that
fear of the
during that era,
unknown,
fear of
you
a
know, fear of
war,
success, you
fear
know,
of
I
a
mean, you got
nuclear
fear of
attack. Yeah,
everything,
you're
you
right.
know?
You're right.
And just looking at that again, as they progress technology upon the planet for programming.
And see, the thing is that's foreign to us.
Yeah.
When you say technology, our technology is based on love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our technology is based on our
Yeah.
heart, our inner being
Yeah.
connected with other people,
Yeah.
you know, and with the planet,
Yeah.
as opposed to a technology that separates and
It's a
extracts.
good way of looking at it. Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
way of looking at it.
Because you can look at all the killings and the murders that are going on, you know, thing. And then that's a good thing that you brought up earlier about spring. It's just the opposite, because now when spring come around, you can hear all the killings and all the things going on in the news.
That's
where it wasn't like that at one point in time.
Yeah, because spring used to be about renewal, refresh, a fresh
It
start.
still is. It still
Well,
is.
it's supposed to be.
But
yeah.
see, you got to realize that you know, the media.
Uh-huh.
First of all, there's no law
Mm-hmm.
that says that any media outlet has to tell the truth. There's no law. There's no
Right.
law against lying. Okay?
There's not a law, but it's supposed to be an ethical thing.
No, but they don't do it.
Yeah.
Or they don't do it. So
Yeah.
they portray,
Mm-hmm.
because most people get their understanding of reality outside of their daily living.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, they go to the job, they go home,
Yeah.
they might go here or there, but they don't go too far outside of that circle. And
Yeah.
everything else comes from the media,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you look at the media,
Mm-hmm.
you'll believe that the world is jacked up. Because
That's
if you look
true.
at the news, you don't get the last time I saw some good news on the news was right before the Olympics coming to Atlanta, 96, right?
I think I'm sitting here
Shortly
thinking.
after that plane got shot down over Long Island, right?
Yeah,
Then that
yeah.
dude blew up the bomb in Centennial Park,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But as far as the news flow,
You're listening to Radio DNA Network with Kaye Dee and Motormouth Radio Show, 24/7 in cyberspace.